Hello and welcome to the program with me, Kona Sise. Today, the camera can work out with you at the Anti-Corruption Commission for witness the press briefing with the Anti-Corruption Commission called so that they can update the general public on them plan to action on the 2020 Auditor General's report. We're going inside the press briefing room now for witness the press briefing.
ACC, I want to warmly welcome you to this press briefing, which is meant to update you on what the ACC has done so far in regard the recently published and tabled Auditor General's report of the year 2020. On that note, I now have the pleasure to humbly ask the Commissioner to take you through this very important process. Thank you very much, Commissioner sir.
Thank you very much. Staff of the ACC, distinguished members of the press, I greet you all. We are all here, as we know, as is usual in December, the Auditor General's report comes out, which throws light into the anti-corruption space. We at the ACC appreciate the Auditor General's department for their great work. We thank them for year in, year out, taking time to check into the public space and bring out issues which we can use in our work. We also appreciate the collaboration with our parliament, the Sierra Leone Parliament, who, as we all know, has the constitutional responsibility for acting on Auditor General's report. Over the years, we have forged a very friendly relationship with them, one built on mutual trust. They understand that we are merely doing our work as the Parliament of Sierra Leone delegated to us to fight corruption, but also does not stop them from doing what they have to do to achieve the same goal, to ensure that we control corruption in Sierra Leone and the accountability space in Sierra Leone is better. So we appreciate our counterparts, the Public Account Committee, but more generally the Sierra Leone Parliament for their support to our work. We also appreciate every other public servant, particularly well-meaning ones, who have taken steps on audit reports, whilst we try to consider what is happening. Now, firstly, I would like to bring to your attention that there has never been a time when action has been taken on audit reports more than now. In fact, in recent times, the ACC has strongly acted on outcomes of public reports. As I speak with you, I have with me here action that we have taken on the 2019 audit reports. Several of the issues were dealt with. We recovered millions of euros that have to do with issues in audit reports. We also discovered a lot of issues because, as I've always told you, it takes almost a year before the audit report comes out. So the audit report for 2019 comes out in December 2020. The same way, the audit report for 2020 is only coming out now in December 2021. Now, a lot of the issues may have been handled by the institutions. Either, for example, issues that have to do with tax payments, you will see that they will say that tax were not deducted and paid, and you will see that a chunk of audit reports will always go on those issues. By the time we engage in real time on those issues, the institutions may have paid. Those who may not have paid usually pledge to pay, and they pay and they provide us evidence of payment. But two things are clear. One, Sierra Leone is taking stronger action on Auditor General's reports since 2018 to now. In fact, what we are doing in Sierra Leone is not being done in any other country in Africa when it comes to taking prompt action on audit reports. Similarly, we do not do so discriminatorily. We take all the issues, taking into consideration our capacity and our resources, because the ACC cannot deal with all the issues that come out in audit reports at the same time. So there is always this need for the public to think that the ACC should solve all the problems that come out in the audit report immediately. That is an unfair expectation on us. But I can assure you that we'll do everything we can to take steps as may be required throughout the year to deal with most of the issues in the audit report, and we have been to very well. So that is to let you know that action is being taken on audit report. If you have any specific issue that you think that you have not had the ACC take action on, please get to us after this conference. We'll give you full information, because even when I'm looking here, for example, there was an issue of recovery in the 2019 audit report, and here which says that 254 million was recovered. And throughout this document I have, you see a lot of these recoveries, but sometimes you will also see areas where over 70% of the issues that were in the last audit report were solved by the time we got involved. So, for example, issues that have to do with councils and all these payments that were not made, some are paid, some came and negotiated to be paid. Various district councils have paid back millions of euros to the ACC, which you are going to return into the consolidated revenue form. So the bottom line is, action is being taken on audit reports, and we appreciate the audit Sierra Leone for their work they are doing. We will continue taking action. Now to the 2020 audit report. We have identified the AGs. The report itself has 1,020 issues that need our attention. In these 1,020 issues, in the AG's opinion on the public accounts, there are 9 issues that need our attention. For embassies and high commissions, 51 issues. Ministries, departments, and agencies, 281 issues. Public enterprises, commissions, and donor-funded projects, that is the chunk of where the issues are, 635 issues. And we have 44 issues from local councils. So as you can see, these are a wide array of issues that we cannot solve immediately. So as you, the press, are reporting on what we are doing on audit report, I want you to know that because in December 2021, we have not acted on a particular issue, the audit report does not mean the ACC has decided to ignore it. So if we decide to start, for example, with an issue at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Ministry of National Minerals Agency, it does not mean an issue in the presidency will not be looked into. If we start with the presidency, it does not mean an issue in the local councils will not be looked into. All of them are important to us, but we have 251 staff countrywide, and we can only do as much as we can within our resources and the personnel we have. As you can already see, every year our Christmas goes because of audit reports and the fact that we take our work very seriously. So even now, which is the Christmas season, we have been combing through the most recent audit reports, identifying issues that need to be acted on, and of course, preparing ourselves to start robustly acting on them. Now, the issues are too many. It will be difficult for me to go through all the issues that we can, but what we have done is to broadly categorize our actions. There are various issues that we have identified for investigation. That means teams in the ACC are going to be divided to investigate these issues as speedily as possible, but within reasonable constraints that we have with personnel, with time and resources. The National Minerals Agency, 15.9 billion on page 5 of the audit report. We think 15.9 billion is so huge. It's a lot of revenue. Therefore, whosoever is responsible for that kind of money, again, we are not saying, it does not mean because audit report bring these things out, it means somebody has stolen it. But somebody has to explain to us very quickly what is happening. And We want people, particularly if they are listening to this report, to prepare themselves to give us very quick explanation. If not, they are going to be detained over the Christmas period across the board. So in the National Minerals Agency, whosoever is responsible for finances should be prepared to explain why an audit is picking up 15.9 billion on reported resources. Sierra Leone Maritime Administration and Shipping Agency, $479,000. Somebody has to explain as quickly as possible. Sierra Leone Marine Admin Shipping Agency, 408 million. That's another one. The African Link Inspection Limited, 13.19 billion. Ministry of Finance, 141 million. All these ones I'm calling are issues for investigation. Again, Ministry of Finance, irregularities in duty waivers that amount to 4.5 billion euros need to be explained. We have quite a number of non-disclosure of loan agreements. These are more non-disclosure issues than actual corruption. So we'll advise that whosoever is responsible, Ministry of Finance, Seratel, and the EDSA, for these contracts that were not disclosed to auditors, should be prepared to make them available almost immediately. 4.5 billion, Ministry of Finance, Seratel, $29 million, and of course the EDSA, $7 million. We have other issues of non-disclosure of loan agreements, again, Ministry of Finance, 7 billion and 4.9 billion. We have payments without adequate supporting documents, Egypt, 2011 to 2020. These are embassies, it will be investigated. The same thing for Egypt and Libya, $91,000, $5, $92,000, all these ones are embassies, they need investigation. Quite a number of payments from Egypt, Ethiopia, the Gambia, Ghana, Kenya, Liberia, Nigeria, Senegal. Many payments for Senegal, including double salaries, children allowances, all those things need to be looked into. We also have many payments without supporting documents in district councils. From Carine to Bombali to Calabar to Potloko to Tonkolili, Cambia, Freetown City Council, Potloko, Cambia, Freetown City Council, Potloko, Freetown City Council. All these involving payments without supporting documents, excess payment, unauthorized payments. Those responsible for finances there need to explain. The same thing for other councils, Makeni City Councils. There are several councils listed. Western Area District Council, Carine, Potloko, Tonkolili, Cambia. All of them need to explain the issues, and the ACC will check to know why supporting documents were not provided. We have the Ministry of Agriculture, quite an array of payments that need evidence. Most of it is that there is no evidence or logbook to support for verification. So these are things, usually when we ACC get engaged with them, this institution provides these logbooks to us. But then why are they not available to auditors year in, year out, is something we cannot understand. Even though we do our best to push them that reduce the workload on the ACC, provide these documents to auditors when they come, they don't happen. Somebody has to answer for this. And we are going to make sure that across the board, people who are responsible for this, either they make it available to us between now and Friday, or we'll take steps to make sure that their Christmas is not as sweet as they would have wanted it. So a lot of payments involving the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry across the board. Ministry of Social Welfare, similarly, several payments that have been identified. Most of them are system issues, basically system prevention issues, but also there are some that have been identified for direct investigation. Ministry of Information, 805,000. Stores issues, vouchers, records were not maintained by the ministry. So the Ministry of Information, whosoever is responsible for stores, has to make an explanation as to this 805 that remains on the book, but they do not have information. There are several issues for system issues for Ministry of Information that will have to liaise with the ministry to make sure that action is taken properly. Ministry of Trade, similarly, no approval from Ministry of Finance for utilization of the said amount. Somebody has to explain how the amounts were utilized without approval, and of course, evidence to justify payments that were made. Several from Ministry of Trade. Yes, also Ministry of Sports. Procurement methods not followed. Whosoever is responsible for procurement in the Ministry of Sport has to explain. Several issues involving the Ministry of Sport, supporting documents, procurement, evidence was not provided. It seems as if most of these ministries, I don't know whether people just abdicate their responsibility to act or provide evidence to auditors. So it seems the issues are all the same. Documents are not provided to auditors, information are not provided to auditors. We are going to check why. And we would advise that those who have responsibility to do so should contact us quickly to ensure that we check. Because I have told you over 70% of audit issues in the 2019 audit report did not require further investigation because the evidence were there, the payments were made. We suspect that there will be the same here. It is because of lack of cooperation with auditors that we are having most of these very, very terrible reports that are coming out year in, year out. So many issues in the Ministry of Sports. Somebody obviously did not take their role very seriously in the Ministry of Sports, particularly those in charge of finance, procurement, and payments. Those issues will be flagged. They have been flagged for investigation and for systems review. There are too many issues from the Ministry of Sports. It's as if it was not even audited at all. Ministry of Internal Affairs, procurement issues were used. Procurement activities without purchase requisition evidence of appropriation from the PS and the required RFQs. That will be looked into. Ministry of Internal Affairs, quite a number of issues. Ministry of Works, several billions of issues, and most of it has been flagged for investigation from Ministry of Works. We will do so. Ministry of Works and Assets and Public, a lot of issues. When you see such list of issues in such ministries, you ask yourself whether they subjected themselves to audit at all. Because I think if they did, then we will not be having these things like payment, withholding tax. You just provide the evidence that you pay to NRA. And most times when we engage, that is the time they come with us and we verify with NRA, and the NRA confirms to us that payments have been made. But then why were they not available to auditors? Up to now, even with our best efforts, we cannot easily explain. The Ministry of Finance, withdrawals without supporting documents that go into billions have been identified. Withdrawals from non-member of staff of the ministry, over 5 billion. Payment made without supporting documents, over 4 billion. The issues for Ministry of Finance run into several pages. This is one area that we are also going to check, because these amounts I am seeing from withdrawals of interest accounts, payments without documentations that concern the Ministry of Finance are frankly too extensive, and they go into several billions of loans, and we cannot understand why, because I know the Ministry of Finance will have a lot of professionals. The people who work there are people who are close to me. Because of the nature of what they do, we interact a lot on audit issues, and we have conversations about cooperation with auditors about this. I know, for example, Mr. Sajusu has been doing a lot personally, writing letters to ensure that MDAs comply with audit recommendations. So for an audit report to come out, and we have this array of payments For example, transaction posted without evidence of consultations, evidence of recommendations was not provided for audit processes. In one of the issues at page 206, is 9.8 billion. And there are several other hundreds of millions of such payments not made. I am going to personally have a meeting with them for us to understand why these issues keep coming up for the Ministry of Finance. Moped is the same thing, several millions, several pages of each and different issues, quite an array of them will have to be looked into. Ministry of Health, the same thing. And the all concerned procurements, not providing documents, and sometimes system weaknesses. Quite a number of issues for the Ministry of Health. Ministry of Lands, Housing and Country Planning. No available records pertaining to revenue generated from surveys fees related to 982 survey bills. No bank documents provided indicating that revenue collected to the said amount was paid to the Consolidated Revenue Fund. People who are responsible for this will have to go, and our target are going to be the ones who are responsible for finance across all the institutions I'm naming. Sometimes when we do these things, people say, oh, you should go for the minister. The minister cannot provide an explanation at this stage. Except if you come with a finance person, or the admin person, or the procurement person, and they point to them. But it is more likely that it is those who are responsible for the administrative setup who can provide the tool. And we are going to go after them very strongly to ensure that we have information. So quite a number of issues from the Ministry of Lands. We have an issue here for other institutions, some the judiciary, various payments, system issues. We work with the judiciary to make sure that these are fixed, but also hold those responsible where there is evidence to suggest so. Because there are several issues that have been flagged that have to do with the judiciary of Sierra Leone. The office of the president. Many issues related to overseas imprint not properly retired, overseas travel expenses to various countries, register issues, funds utilized for activities that were not properly provided. Now, a lot of issues in the audit report concern the office of the president, particularly when it comes to travel expenses and things like that. There are people in the office of the president who are responsible for this. Administrative staff, the state chief of protocol, the secretary to president, there are other people who have all these responsibilities. We are going to make sure that whosoever that is responsible for providing those explanations provides the explanation to us as to why they were not provided to the auditors, or will have access to the information and documents that they have. Because frankly, some of the issues, we see them as straightforward. A receipt that was issued for hotel and other things, these are things that should not have any back and forth at all. It's a question of just checking to make sure that things are done properly. However, let me make it clear at this stage, because I have seen a lot of people make reference to the fact they think that the Anti-Corruption Commission, the target should now be the president of Sierra Leone. If the ACC does not arrest the president of Sierra Leone, it means the ACC is not doing a job. You are making a serious error of judgment. Because the Constitution itself clearly provides that no action, civil or criminal, can be taken against a sitting president of Sierra Leone while he is president. So if you think, sitting at home, or you journalists think that the ACC is going to arrest the president tomorrow, it is not my mistake. I know the law. It is your own mistake. But also, what we can do is to work with the presidency, and I must repeat again, the president has been very supportive of the fight against corruption, both in action and in words. Therefore, when issues have been flagged surrounding the presidency, I am sure he will provide the necessary support for us to be able to look into it and come out with an independent assessment of those issues. But if anybody's expectation is that the president should now be arrested because audit has flagged issues in the presidency, I am sorry. The Constitution says it cannot happen. I am not a violator of the Constitution. But I also know that these issues really do not concern the president much, even though the president is in the middle of it. It's more about those around the president who make payments, who issue receipts, who do things. You don't expect the president to be the one who is standing at counters to make payments for receipts, or to be the one who is paying for his own hotel, or to be transferring vouchers, or certainly to be the one who provides documents to auditors. It is other actors in the presidency who have this responsibility, and those people are not immune by the Constitution. Therefore, we will check with them to understand what happened. There are a number of issues in the office of the Chief Minister, those will be checked as well. The issue that has to do with the Commission of Inquiry judges and the Commission of Inquiry itself will be looked into. The Sierra Leone Police has a few issues, not much, but revenue, manage and control of armed guards. So armed guards are provided to various houses. The audit has picked up that there has not been clear coordination between the head of revenue and operational support division, leading to the unawareness of total number of armed guards deployed, Interpol receipts issued without proper receipt number. These are things we work with the police to see what is happening there. A number of issues from the Sierra Leone police, from north, south, east, we work with them to see. There are also issues flagged with the Sierra Leone Correctional Services. We'll look into them. A number of issues from the Sierra Leone Correctional Services. Most of them are system issues. System issues, not really that money has been stolen. It's because the systems and processes leading to the utilization of public funds may have been weak and inadequate. We identify them and work with the correctional services to fix them. Office of the Administrator and Registrar General, lack of reconciliation between NRA records and consolidated form. We'll check with them to understand what is happening. Immigration Department, the same. Immigration Department, National Fire Force, Police, the hospitals, the district councils, a number of issues from the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. Now, I know the minister there is very passionate about education issue, but also about accountability and transparency issues. Therefore, we are going to work with them to investigate the issues that have been raised, because some of them are so serious that they require immediate investigation. We are going to check to know what is happening in the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. The issues are many. All I can say is that all of them will be looked into. The National Revenue Authority, quite a number of issues identified, particularly at page 79, 80, and 82, 84, 83. Also issues at the Sierra Leone Commercial Bank, the NASIT, the SLRA, the Sierra Leone SLPA, the Sierra Leone Free Education Project, the Port Authority, the Petroleum Directorate, the National Procurement Authority, and other institutions. What I can say at this stage is the issues are many. Probably this is the audit report with the widest array of audits carried out throughout the time that I have been commissioner. And that is why we have 1,020 issues to look at. Last year, it was less than 500 issues. So our work has doubled by the current audit report. That is all because more embassies were reviewed, more ministries, departments and agencies were reviewed, and even donor funds were included in this particular audit. But what I can assure the people of Sierra Leone and you members of the press is that the ACC is doing its best with these audits, and it's doing so very well. Audit reports everywhere in the world usually create a very bleak picture of the country. particularly in terms of cooperation with auditors, prompt provision of documents to auditors, and because audits are done within a very small time frame, usually about 3 months or less, sometimes documents that are required may not yet be available. People who are to provide the information may be in the provinces or may be out of the country. A lot can happen for us to have what we call an audit report. Therefore, we are asking that you members of the press work with us. Follow what we are doing. In your commentaries and analysis, be fair. But also understand that our role is to fight corruption. The mere word fighting corruption is an action word. It means something is ongoing. So if you expect that because Ben Kaifala has come and Sierra Leone is trailblazing in indexes, we are going upwards in every index of the world, that means corruption has ended in Sierra Leone, then again, that is your mistake. What I can assure you is that the effort that we are putting in now is far better than any other time in the history of Sierra Leone, and the results are very clear. There will not be an exception with what we have been doing, and certainly this audit report for 2020 will be an example of our ability, our will, our desire, our courage, our strength to employ everything, whether spiritual or physical, to fight corruption in Sierra Leone. I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for that detailed, comprehensive presentation. So we are going straight to reactions. I advise that you are very brief, no preambles, go straight to the question. We don't intend to stay here too long. Your name and the institution you are representing, and you ask your question. We'll take the first set of questions, and that will be 5 questions in this first set. Thank you very much. Yes? Yes? Yes?
Robert, manager Africa on Radio. Sir, I just want to know if the audit report for 2019 have been still issues that are not yet completed, and here comes that of 2020 to see how you walk through those that remain for 2019 and those that are coming for 2020. And secondly, in the commissioner's delivery, we heard nothing about the Anti-Corruption Commission. Is there nothing on the audit report about ACC? Thank you.
Thank you.
Going through everything that has been identified in the office of the president, we do not have time for that. But everything, if you read page 285, 82, is it page 440 of the audit report, that's 940, 41, 42, there, you see all the issues that are there about the presidency. So I don't have to waste time going through the issues, but most of them deal with on retired impress, payments made, hotels, lodging, accommodation, medical bills, and things like that. You also asked about people ACC has investigated. That is not the ACC has investigated hundreds and dozens of people. We can give you that information very easily if you visit the ACC. People with SRD will make it available to you. We cannot now call every individual that the ACC has investigated for the past 3 years. That will take away from the purpose of this press conference. For recovery, I know we have recovered over 35 billion notes. We have the records of all those, and you can always contact us and we'll give you details of that. But that is not the focus of this particular press conference. Robert from Britain Radio is asking whether there are outstanding issues in the 2019 audit. Yes, there are outstanding issues in the 2019 audit. But I can assure you that we have dealt with almost 80% of the issues in the 2019 audit. But as always, we cannot finish all of them. And some of them, even in this current audit report, there are issues that come from all the way back from 2015, 16, 17, 18, somehow finding their way again. There are institutions, I have letters now from institutions who have written to say, these issues that you have identified in the 2020 audit, was in the 2019 audit, and we have already solved it, and we communicated to Audit Service Sierra Leone that we have solved it. We cannot understand why it is still in the audit report, but it is there. So if you need further details on that, we can have that conversation later. But there are very few outstanding issues. Most of the issues in the 2019 audit issues were because the institution did not cooperate with the auditors. And we made sure that they provide us evidence that confirms that indeed they did what had to be done. And that is why many people could not go to jail or were not in prison. But a lot of recoveries have also been made, running into millions and millions, billions of euros that are currently with us from audit findings from last year. Standard Time newspaper is asking for the status of the First Lady. The Constitution refers to the President, it did not refer to anybody else. So that is my straightforward answer to you. The Constitution simply says the President is immune from criminal and civil prosecution while he is in office. That is the position as it stands. Any other person, any other issue will review accordingly, particularly when it touches to do with the accountability space of service. Nothing in the audit report about the ACC. The ACC is a grade A audit institution. The ACC, if you want to see an example of an institution that is perfectly run, come to the ACC. That is why you did not see anything material about the ACC in the audit report. Because our audit, in fact, even the 2021 audit that has just been completed, there were only two minor audit issues, queries that came back to us. But they are so minor that they were easily dealt with. So I can assure you that the ACC is being perfectly run, and the audit service reviews everything we do at the ACC, year in, year out. And if you do not see anything there, it means there is nothing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Coker? I see your hand.
Thank you. My name is Prince Coker for the Whispers newspaper. I was just wondering, you suggested that if the guys who are responsible for producing documents to the Auditor General haven't done so, you are asking them to do that before between now and Friday. Should they fail, what happens next?
They say 153 million is not accounted for, it means 153 million has been stolen. That is clearly not correct. It is because there are issues with 153 million. And if you look at if you do comparative analysis with other countries of the world, if you look at supreme audit reports from other countries of the world, you will see that what we are talking about in Sierra Leone, even though for our country it's a big thing, and I'm happy that all of us really feel upon, even if it is 1 Leone, for it to be accounted for. But trust me, you realize that other countries are far worse off. But people sensationalize the issue, they make it sound like there is nothing being done about the fight against corruption in Sierra Leone. No, it's a mistake. So if I ask now how many journalists have tried to do comparative report analysis of audit reports in the region, or in Africa, or in the world, I would be very surprised if there is even 2. But that does not mean that all is lost in Sierra Leone simply because they say 153 billion has not been explained. The reward of the fight against corruption is about the action you are taking about the issue. And we are taking very serious action. I just told you that in the entire Africa, and I challenge all of you to go and check, The only country in Africa where when audit report comes out, immediately the anti-corruption institution jumps on it is Sierra Leone. It does not happen anywhere. It does not happen in Ghana. It does not happen in Nigeria. It does not happen in Kenya. It does not happen in Botswana. It does not happen anywhere. This is the only country. In fact, what we are doing is against best practice. But we do it because our people are enlightened enough and they believe that we should take action on it. But I am asking you again, please go and check audit reports from other countries. You will see that our case is not as worse as usually it's being presented in the media, even though it is good that we are ensuring that we put sufficient pressure and for action to be taken against it. But to present it that Sierra Leone is the only country where every year things are coming. There are countries in the global transparency indexes that are scoring number 1, number 2. You should go and check their audit reports, you will see. Therefore, we will continue doing what we can do against corruption, and I can assure you that right now in Africa, you cannot discuss success of the fight against corruption, strength of the fight against corruption. A good example of the fight against corruption if Sierra Leone is not mentioned. Then there is another issue that comes on the issue of the receipt. What I am saying is this, and I want you, Mr. Jalo, to listen very carefully. I said the president of Sierra Leone, Dr. Julius Maada Bio, has been very supportive of the fight against corruption. And in doing so, both in action, in word, and in posture, he has supported the fight against corruption. He is the only president in the entire Africa who reserved time to make a statement on the fight against corruption on International Anti-Corruption Day, detailing the effort against corruption, reminding us of the country's resolve to fight corruption, and pledging personally as a president to continue to support it. It does not happen anywhere else in Africa. So, if we have a situation whereby audit reports has captured receipt issues in the presidency, what I am saying is, I cannot understand why a receipt issue should even be a problem in the presidency when we have a supportive president of the fight against corruption. So I am not defending anything. I am merely giving you that this is the situation we have, but I have also told you that the ACC will make sure we check in the office of the president these issues that have to do with receipts to investigate thoroughly and come out with a clear position on the issue. Kamara says peace is very important, but timing of the investigation. The fight against corruption is not emotional. We are not responsible for peace. The security agencies and other actors are responsible for maintaining peace. In fact, now there is a peace commission. They have the responsibility to talk about peace. We will do our job. So if anybody is needed to be investigated, to be tried, to be prosecuted, it does not matter where the person is, it does not matter how many people are jumping in the street. The last time when they fired tear gas, it was all the way in my office. My eyes were so red. But the investigation went on and we have charged the court. That is what we do. We are not emotional with our work, and we are not responsible for peace and security. Those who are responsible for peace and security will take necessary steps for it. And my good friend at the police, Dr. Sobula, is very ready to ensure that there is peace and security in Sierra Leone. Thank you very much.
This is the final round. So we'll take other questions. Yes?
But now that we provided comprehensive updates on actions on the forensic audit report, and there were billions of recoveries, we charged many to court, some of the files were closed. I advise you go to our website and go back 1 or 2 years ago. You will see those updates on audit findings and included that audit report. ADM is asking that I have showered a lot of praise on the president, and but whether I think that the president is undermining the fight against corruption. Now, first of all, ADM, you have to understand that there is a distinction between the president and the presidency. And we have to have a clear distinction between the president and the presidency. The presidency is an office that encompasses several public servants, From the Secretary to President, to the State Chief of Protocol, to various assistants, we have finance directors, we have all kinds of people who are working there. Hundreds of individuals. The President is an individual. What I am saying is that the current President is supportive of the fight against corruption. But he is the head of the presidency, as he is the head of Sierra Leone. So therefore, I agree with you. A situation like this requires now for us to go and check deep, why is this situation happening? And then we'll come out with our report. But at this stage, we can only do our work dispassionately and professionally. So it's not because I have said the president is supportive of the fight against corruption. That means if somebody in the presidency is not doing what is right when it comes to accountability, we cannot take appropriate action. We'll look into it. But also do not forget that the president himself is immune entirely, 100% by the Constitution. He is the only sacred cow created by the Constitution. Let's keep that in mind. Again, another question came about international accolades for the fight against corruption. And he's asking how we succeeded. Do you know why we are succeeding in the fight against corruption in Sierra Leone? It's because of something like this we are doing now. There will always be corruption. People will always do things that are not right. The fight against corruption is rewarded by the action you are willing and able to take. The courage to go after the corrupt. And the fact that we are having this press conference to discuss issues in the Auditor General's report and clearly giving you plan of action, and we can also show you evidence that the other audit reports that have come out, we took conscientious steps and efforts against those who were named in those reports. It means we are doing well with the fight against corruption and will continue to do well. Of course, when international agencies are coming to assess what is happening with the fight against corruption, they will always ask the simple question: what have you done? What have you been doing? And we have a lot to show for what we have been doing. Therefore, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you that Sierra Leone continues to put in its best effort in the fight against corruption. We appreciate the support and collaboration we are having with our partners, particularly you in the media. You are all part of the fight against corruption and you are doing very well with your analysis. Not just the times when we do well, you praise us, but the times when you think it is critical or you have critical issues to do or you want to critique, you also critique. We follow everything. We have people in the ACC who are responsible just for analyzing what is in the media day in, day out. You all are helping us in our work, and we appreciate everything you have been doing in support of the fight against corruption. At this stage, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Deputy Commissioner is here, and we welcome him. But I believe this is the end of the press conference. Thank you very much.